Hi Conor.
Hey Brian. Those things.
Mr. Subtle Audio himself. So this is where it all happens, huh?
Well, I don't know how much happens up here, but some things happen up here.
This is where you run your record label from.
Yeah. You wouldn't be very impressed if you were an aspiring drum and bass artist looking in here, would you? The state of the place.
So you got most of your tunes here.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, there's another wardrobe here with a few more, and we got a lot of CDs and more vinyl there, and there's always vinyl on the floor, of course, as well. Like, so, a couple of bags worth of it there in front of the shelves.
Is this stuff? How far back is these vinyls going?
Well, you're talking, about 92 and 93 would be the early stuff, the very earliest stuff. And that's my dodgy cable, sorry. Yeah. As I say, like, you wouldn't want to be a drum and bass producer that I wanted to sign and listen to all this dodginess inside of this office of Subtle Audio here. But there's old vinyls there from 2000, like mainly drum and bass back to 92 and 93.
There's one here.
That's one I got in Black Spot actually years ago. Off Doc, who used to run the store at the time. It's a 1993 Jungle compilation.
1993.
Yeah.
That's going back.
Like 17 years now.
More or less the start, yeah.
Yeah.
Go on then, play the tune.
Play a tune. Okay. What am I going to play, Brian? What do you want to hear?
Don't know. Anything as long as it doesn't blow up the stereo.
I'm just worried about the stereo at this point. Like, you mightn't even play.
You have a dodgy lead in here somewhere, do you?
I do, yeah. Well, always when you come back, we just set up the turntables after a gig, and there's always a lead that plays up.
Dodgy lead. Wonder where it is.
Boot it back up and see how we get on this time. I think I move it should be up there. Here we go. Fracture Neptune, in case you're wondering who it is.
Is there a white label?
Yeah, this is actually released by a kind of a DIY label from the UK called Server Central. And they run a web forum, and they also put out some vinyl releases now and again. So they just press up white labels, 300 copies. They've got no distribution deal, so they just sell it all themselves from their kind of like this, from their own bedroom, literally. So it's some really good music.
Mix in something else?
Huh?
Mix in something there. Just give us an example of your mixing skills.
Or not. advertise with my own label, really, don't I?
So this is the subtle audio tune.
I have to make the most of this media attention.
how it's done. Simple as
Sometimes. Got lucky.
So is this
that's after, by the way, people, this is after 7 takes. Take 7.
Don't lie, this is the first one. The first is always the best.
Find the sleeve for this later, maybe.
So 10 years of NuKillaBeatz.
Yeah, nearly. Well, we're nearly at the birthday party. So 6th of March. 6th of March, yeah. Saturday, 6th of March in Limerick.
And we're putting together this little film just to celebrate. And
yeah, maybe the last time these decks ever come out of this bedroom for a gig, hopefully.
Let's take a closer look at them then before the final big day.
That's the old battered one from the days of the doghouse, believe it or not. So it's survived 10 years of clubbing, and this one is only about 2 or 3, well, maybe 4 years old. So this is kind of new. That one's from the very first gig we ever did. That one was used.
What about these?
Well, they're newer kind of stuff as well.
That's a new way of doing it,
Yeah. Well, it's good to be able to play for unreleased tunes that you just get sent, or if you want to download some tunes, burn them onto CD. It's a fast way of getting some music that you can't really get on vinyl or whatever. So it's good for the unreleased stuff, without having to cut dub plates like they did back in the day. Yeah.
Well done, Conor.
Cheers, Brian. 7 takes later.
Yeah, check. It's Code coming through from Limerick. It's a subtle audio show. First one of 2010, and hope you all had a good Christmas and all that kind of stuff. Got a pretty bad cold, you can probably hear that. Feeling a bit crap, to be honest, but still got to play some beats, make sure that plenty of jungle coming out of the speakers. Better than any disciplines or anything like that anyway, I think. Kicking off tonight with something forthcoming on Subtle Audio. This is from an Irish guy called Mecca. Probably going to be a digital release. The track is called Leviathan. So kicking off for this night, loads of new material, including some unreleased stuff on the Alpha Cut label, amongst other things. Watch for Stranja as well.
So, Conor, when was the first time you ever heard jungle?
Oh God, I thought this was going to go back to 1999, not 1975 or something. The first time I would have heard jungle, well, I would say, first of all, I'd say I heard of Prodigy and people like that. It's not jungle, but, you know, it's getting there.
It's
91, 92. I was just hearing it on the radio, or maybe on, you know, there was all those compilations at the time, Rave 92 and all this kind of stuff. But I think I got a few tapes from a friend in Tipperary who I went to school with, and he had a friend who had a cousin who lived in London who was back in Ireland on holidays, and he brought back a load of tapes from like Dreamscape and some pirate radio shows, you know, like with just not big DJs, but just guys playing on pirate stations, playing loads of good tunes. So like the likes of, well, there was LTJ Bookham from Dreamscape, who obviously would have been fairly well known, but that was the first time I kind of heard it. And I was kind of at first kind of going, this is crazy stuff, but after a few listens I was kind of going, it's crazy, but it's really good. So,
what had you been listening to before that? I mean, what age were you at that stage?
I was about 13 or 14.
So had you always liked music from an early age? Like?
Yeah, I think, well, I'd always kind of, my parents are always making us play like the tin whistle or the piano, or I was never very interested, but you know, we always had that, I suppose, exposure. No. He played the button accordion. My father actually taught himself everything he ever learned how to play, so he could get out a tune out of a piano or a button accordion. But no, there was always music in the house. My mother had a record collection, and it would have been, you know,
chart hits or whatever, but she would have always had that on, or Top of the Pops, so we always would have been subjected to some kind of music, yeah.
So anyway, this stuff came along and you were going, what the hell is this? This is totally different.
Well, I suppose I'd always kind of been drawn towards electronic music, even in the charts. You know, that's all I heard. All I was exposed to when I was young was what was on 2FM or on Top of the Pops. So I didn't really hear very much underground music. But, you know, at that time, there was kind of people like the Shaman or the Prodigy sneaking into the charts. So you're getting to your more electronic sounds. And even before that, you know, technotronic or anything like that, I would have been like, oh, that's really good. So I would have been drawn to the electronic kind of music stuff.
And of course, you were a big fan of Transformers cartoon, which was kind of futuristic.
Futuristic, yeah.
So
yeah. Anything to do with like technology and futurism, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, this stuff started coming in. You got a couple of tapes, and what about getting records? Or I mean, it was vinyl at that stage. CDs hadn't really come in at that stage.
They had actually, because I remember most of the stuff I had was on tape. Like the Prodigy Experience, when I bought that, was on tape, and that tape got caned for about 2 years. Yeah, it was literally the only tape I had. So, but I remember around that time going into Empire Music and finding, I began to pick up some magazines and get to know who the names were to look for, people like that. You know, in Easton's would have had Generator magazine, for example, or Mix Mag or whatever. So I began to find out the names I needed to be looking for, and then at Empire I remember there was like hardcore CDs and, you know, early hardcore and jungle stuff on CD, so it was around the time CDs were coming in, so yeah, I picked up a few CDs at the time. But I remember the big thing in terms of getting actually a record collection together was finding this tape from Reinforced Records, which was Four Heroes label. And I found that in Empire in Limerick. I don't know why they had it, but thank God they did, because I really liked it. I found an address for Reinforced Records on it, so it was before the days of email, so I actually had to write off a letter to them, like asking for a catalogue and see could I order some records. So I posted it off, and I posted letters like that off to loads of shops, and they never got back to me, but Reinforced got back to me. And I started to order one or two records when I could piece together the pocket money, you know. So that was the first time. 1993, I think, I got my first vinyl from Reinforced. So.
And did you order that from England? Or?
Yeah. I think it was $3.50 sterling at the time.
What is it, around 10 weeks pocket money?
It was when you're on 50 pence a week.
But okay, so what about? So you started buying records. I mean, what were you playing them on at home? Did you ever just a record player, or I mean, you didn't have decks at that stage?
The same record player that was playing Chart Hits 81 was suddenly playing Groove Rider and Goldie and Roughage Crew.
And of course, you couldn't really get a proper bass out of it either. So
yeah, the speakers were okay, but they weren't brilliant.
Yeah,
I think at the time I didn't even realise that there was much bass in that music, and that's why I think I've always been drawn towards the rhythms and the drums in drum and bass. You know, even to this day, it's the style I play. It's really drummy drum and bass. Although, of course, I like bass lines as well. But I kind of put it down to the sound systems I was listening to the music on.
okay.
But we got a new hi-fi at one stage then, so there was a record player on that, and we had the old one still there as well. And I remember around the mid-90s, 95 or something, I had a few records at that stage, and I was trying to mix without a mixer with two separate speakers. You know, one speaker stack belonging to this hi-fi, and the other speaker stack belonging to the other hi-fi. It was like a sound clash in our living room. So that's how I was mixing. No pitch control on the deck, so you actually had to slow it down with your hand, and I was recording the whole thing into a microphone, not into a cassette deck. So yeah, lo-fi. But I suppose it just showed, you know, it didn't matter how, but I was going to become a DJ of some sort, you know. It was, I suppose it was just meant to be.
You were on your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one brand new. Well, not even out yet actually. Coming on the Tech Noir label. This is from Reactive, a track called The Watcher. And watch for this year on the Tech Noir label. Their second release on vinyl due very soon. Right before this, something unreleased by Mind Mapper and Frenic. Or not really sure how to pronounce Frenic's name. I'm just calling that myself. So who knows what he's actually called. FREK4NC or something. But that's a tune from them called Fangtooth, unreleased. Watch for that as well.
So what about locally? Like, I mean, there was no drum and bass scene at all really in Limerick.
Palace Green.
Well, Palace Green is particularly out of the country, but I mean, even in Limerick at that stage. Of course, this was very early days really of the internet as well. There wasn't.
It was before the internet for me because I think the first time I ever knew about the internet even was when I went to college in 1997. So yeah, that's why I thought it was funny that, you know, if I think back now, if I want a record, I email a shop or you order online. Yeah, it was downloaded if you want to play an MP3 or something. But back then you actually had to handwrite a letter and post it off to the record label or the shop. I remember actually sending a tape to a shop in London with clips of the tunes I was after from mixtapes. And your man scratching his head at some of them and kind of thinking that one of them might be Nuki and one of them might be Kev Bird or something. But that's how things were back then. It was completely different. But in Limerick, to get back to your question, there started, well, as I say, I was getting some stuff in Empire, but there started to be one or two other shops. I remember one called Logic. They used to be used to be in the Williams Court shopping centre.
Yeah, I remember the guys. So I came back about 96 and I met those guys. I remember going into the shop. They were in Williams Court first, and then for a while they were in Wickham Street. And then they listened, because I did the sign for the shop, so
right. Okay. Yeah, there was a big mural kind of graffiti thing inside the shop in Williams Court. I think Marcel might have done that. Mecca, his blazer was name. But you did the shop front,
I did this logo, and of course, as usual, I used the Kool FM.
Yeah.
Rob the head, the DJ.
Big pirate, yeah.
So,
but yeah, they actually started to get quite a good, they didn't have everything, but they had quite a good stock of jungle, even though most people going in there would have been buying house and techno. But they did have some jungle and drum and bass. So I started to get some records there. I was still ordering from abroad, Section 5 Records in Chelsea in London. And another shop that was actually really good, and he actually sent me a few free records around the time as well, was Champion Sounds, which was a really good shop. They were from London, but Limerick then started to have a few shops over the years. Logic, Black Spot was always there, and fair play to Doc, he always got into some jungle.
What about HMV?
I never really shopped in HMV. I didn't ever find much that I wanted in there, but I think they've got better in more recent years, but at the time I don't remember ever finding much in there. But there was a few shops, and I couldn't even tell you the names that were in Limerick. There was one on Fox's Bow, that was in the late 90s when I was in college, and another one on Catherine Street, and was only open for maybe, some of these open for 6 months and they were done again. as well.
So what about club wise or whatever? Was there
Club wise in Limerick, like around the early 90s, everybody would talk about Strictly Rhythm. That was the first real good dance club in Limerick. And
where was that?
It was upstairs in the Savoy. Now I was never there, but I heard it was good, and everybody. I still meet people now that talk about it. The first place I remember going to and hearing, like I remember from going into the Logic record shop, and it was kind of going, is there any nights in Limerick, or is there anything happening? And they'd be like, I think there's a guy playing jungle on Sunday nights in McKnight's. It's now called Players up the top of Thomas Street, and I remember being about, I think I was just after starting to drive on a provisional license or something, so it must have been, what age do you have to drive? 17? 60. I think you're 6, because I remember being really young, because my brother was with me and he was about 14, so I remember I was definitely only at 16 at most. So I was underage to get in, but I had a bag of records going. The man told me I could play. I'm the DJ. And my brother was there carrying another record bag. He was 14. He had no chance of getting in without that record bag. So
pushes your age.
Yeah, so we got in, and your man gave me 20 minutes before the club opened, which is fair enough, Like he didn't even know who I was.
So was that your first gig?
Yeah, well, I don't know, could you call it a gig with just the guy who DJs there, and Marcel was there.
It was the first time you played?
Yeah, in anywhere outside of the Sound Clash, in my living room.
Yeah, last one and unreleased, or no, this one unreleased by Zero Equals Zero. Track called Abolished. Last track was an oldie from Danny C called Stronghold on Replicant Audio. Big up everyone locked in. Laudanum DIB. Going out to True Potion 22 as well for this one. He likes this, I think, judging by the hands in the air. Going out to everyone locked in. Junglist.net. Code on the Sub Audio Show.
The Skint finished, and the first NuKillaCru kind of gig, if you like.
So yeah, the first one was in Strictly Zoo, and the next one, as I say, the owners kind of double booked us with another night, and we kind of said, look, we look for somewhere else. So we ended up, I think this kind of chance came up where Rohan from Basement was running a gig in Dublin, and we were like, well, will he stay in Ireland for another day and play in Limerick? So it ended up, I think he's playing in Dublin on Saturday, so we had to play him, the only night we could get him to play in Limerick was Sunday, which was, a weird day to have a gig, and you never mind the drum and bass gig, which there was never like specialist drum and bass nights in Limerick, so I think Quadraphonic that I was talking about in Dublin came down and did one in the Savoy at some stage, but I don't think it went very well. But this, anyway, was our first big venture where we were actually hiring out a club, and it was costing us a lot of money to get your man to play for us. So we said we'd go for it, and we ended up losing a few quid, alright, but we shared it, myself and Kevin shared it between us, and we said, we'll get it back.
You've never made any money out of this?
No,
it's always been a kind of
no. It's whatever you make one night.
It's a labour of love as opposed to...
I mean, whatever you make, you might make something one night, a really good night, but you lose it the next month anyways. But that gig went alright. We actually got about 100 people. It was, I can remember the date, it was December the 1999, which was just before Christmas. It was kind of a weird time to have it. Colleges would have been just some holidays. But I think a lot of people, there was a good scene around UL at the time, and I'd been playing parties at UL in Castle Troy. And there's a lot of people that would have known, say, me, or just would have got into drum and bass from that. And I think they all stayed around for the gig, and we ended up having 100 people there. So.
What about the whole drug scene side of it? I mean, I know you never took drugs or were interested in drugs yourself, but I mean, that was a feature, wasn't it, of the whole scene as such? Like, you know, particularly ecstasy, cocaine, speed, or whatever like that.
I suppose because I wasn't interested in it, I didn't notice it as much as most people would notice. Like, I'd walk into a club and everyone else go, Jesus, everyone's off their heads. Whereas I'd walk in and go, Jesus, that's a great tune. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it was for me. I didn't really ever think about it. It was only maybe at parties where it'd be more obvious, where people would be more, you know, obvious with what they were doing, that you kind of go, alright. But again, I remember like playing at parties out in Castle Troy, and it'd be basically techno playing from 1 in the morning until 6 in the morning, and then I'd get to play. And I literally have been there for 5 hours going, oh, I can hear another techno tune, and I'm killing myself. But I would have, just because I liked drum and bass so much, I wanted to play it, I would have stayed there that long, waited my time patiently, and then finally got on the decks. And most people would clear out of the room the minute you start playing drum and bass. There was always about 10 or 20 people who'd be like, this is really good. So, and I think we kind of built a base up from that, and kind of, when we did our nights then, that crowd was coming into our nights, you know what I mean? And it kind of, it meant that we had some kind of base to build on, you know, which is important.
So, after Skint then, after...
the Globe. And that first Globe gig, I can't remember if we called ourselves the NuKillaCru. I think we might have, but we didn't call the night NuKillaBeatz. It was just fierce playing Limerick. But then we said, look, we're going to have to do a regular night instead of just this, every now and again we do a night. So we that's when we started looking for a venue. We found this place in the Doghouse, the basement area of the Doghouse, which wasn't being used very much. And the guy said we could use it once a week if we wanted. So we started doing Thursday nights in the Doghouse in February 2000. So that was our first regular night, and it's called NuKillaBeatz.
It's the anniversary of that.
10 years. Anniversary of that now, yeah. 10 years. Never would have thought it.
Sending this one out to Brian Hartnett, locked in Limerick. Big ups Brian, big ups Tim Reaper. Good out to Laudanum, good out to J Breaks, not TGV, should be TVG. Shoe Potion. Everyone is locked in tonight. Jason OS, see you there. Thanks for locking in. This one, old one from Breakage. Weezer, I think it's called, can't remember exactly. Next up, Stranja again.
Okay, so that was the Doghouse started in 2000.
Yeah.
Do you remember the lineup on the first night down there?
Yeah, it was me, myself, Kevin Began and Tony Power, so Code B and Roller T. I remember, I think Kevin started, I think I played second, and I think Tony went on last and absolutely tore the roof off. And I think we were actually kind of impressed that we got like about 60, 70 people, and we're kind of going, geez, that wasn't bad. It's only a pub, it's only open till like drinking hours in Ireland on Thursday. Back then were 11:30. So basically the night started at 9 and finished at 12. But we had 70 or 80 people there and people up dancing and everything, so we were like, okay, this could work.
So around 2000 the internet was a bit more of a feature. Was that using that at all in any way to promote the gigs, or there was no, of course you have the Irish drum and bass website now, but
that was actually there back then.
Was it?
I remember first time I came across that website, actually, even though they had the internet in college, I don't think I ever used it a whole lot until I actually went on work experience. With the work experience in analog, and of course they had the internet there, and I had some work to do there, but I wasn't busy all day long, so I ended up using the internet to pass the time some of the time, and found Irish drum and bass, and that was about 1999 or thereabouts, around the same time as we started the Doghouse.
So it made it easier then to get records as well.
The internet made it easier to get records, it made it easier to promote gigs, start hooking up, and that's how this whole hookup between all the different crews in Ireland came about much more easily as well.
Through forums more.
Yeah. Like if we were running a gig, we'd send in a message to the Irish drum and bass lads and they'd post up that the gig in Limerick Thursday.
So where was the main places then for sort of drum and bass scene around Ireland? I mean, Dublin obviously, but what about other places around the country?
Well, I don't know exactly what was going on in every part of Ireland at the time, but I'd say Cork would have had some kind of scene, but I'm not sure. Sir Henry's was the big thing in Cork, and house and techno and that kind of stuff, so I'm not sure how much drum and bass they had. But Bass Odyssey came from Cork, and they were Graham Finn and Alan O'Keefe, two guys who were in Bass Odyssey, and they used to DJ drum and bass. I think they used to play at Henry's around the late 90s. So yeah, I think Cork had some kind of thing going. And I remember going to Galway for the Bud Pud Festival in 1998 or 1999, it was one of the two. And Optical was supposed to play but didn't, but these two DJs called the PM Scientists, a guy and a girl. Zoe Richardson was the girl, and the guy is actually fairly famous by this stage. I can't think of his name, it's a Greek name, it's really kind of hard to say. But anyway, he's kind of big now in house and stuff. Yeah, something like that, but they played an amazing set there. That was in the Warwick in Galway. And I remember going up several times to Dublin on the bus. I saw, who did I see? Fabio and Groove Rider in October 98, which was amazing. They were both really, really good.
So I remember going to Donegal, Ernest.
Yeah.
I think
Donegal would have been an outdoor party, yeah, that was really good. I don't know when that was.
Roy the Boy was involved.
Yeah, he was, him and his brother Malcolm, yeah. Ennis was part of the NuKillaBeatz thing.
Yeah, Tony Skerritt.
Yeah, Tony Skerritt would have been playing in Ennis a bit. There was a scene in Belfast. Judge Dredd was from Belfast, and he was playing way back in the mid-90s, even playing jungle in Ireland, but that was up there.
Of course, there was the infamous parties down in Valencia.
In Valencia, yeah, Jungle Republic.
What year was that?
I don't know when they would have started, but again, it would have been around the same time as we started our night in Limerick. It would have been maybe the year after that was the first one, or maybe 2 years after that, so 2001 or 2002. It ran for maybe 3 years in Valencia, and later on they did one in Killa.
Do you remember going to a place, Lepton?
Yeah, that was, eventually there was a crew that started in Cork, probably around 6 months before we started in Limerick, called the Flu Crew, and you had a guy running there called Danny Bailey, and they used to run their nights in a pub called Deja Voodoo's. But they used to do the odd trip out to the middle of nowhere to a village called Lep, which actually is a really famous venue there. It's really good, and Orbital have played there, which is really weird. But it's 45 miles outside Cork, kind of West Cork kind of direction. And
Harry J was involved.
Harry J would have been involved MCing for the Flu Crew, basically. And Danny used to do the odd trip to that, as I was saying, and they used to be very special gigs, kind of, good atmosphere.
Yeah, this one's Census, unofficially remixing Bjork, track called Signals. Going out to everyone locked in, going out to Juice. Going out to Roger Smith. Roger Smith asking what the last tune was. That was something by Stranja. I can't think of the name of it right now, but I put a track list up and check the forums on jungletrain.net. Check the Mixers forum.
So what about what was your first gig outside of Ireland?
First gig outside of Ireland? I think I played in a bar in America back in 2000, but that wasn't, I wouldn't really call it a gig as such. It wasn't.
That wasn't, you were in LA, is it, or something?
I was in California, I was near San Francisco in Berkeley.
San Francisco.
But I was going out in San Francisco, working there a bit, but I lived in Berkeley, and there was a bar, a small bar. It was a casual thing. I'd say there would have been 10 people there. Like, it wasn't really, it doesn't really stand out as a really good gig. I would say the first proper gig abroad was in London, in Technicality, run by Chris in Perspective, and that was, I think, the end of 2003, or thereabouts. But yeah, that was really, really good experience. Really like that. Mike Bailey was in the crowd. I think some other people there, you know, a lot of scene people, which so would have been playing in front of people that you'd always listen to yourself, which is kind of a good experience.
So where have you played then since?
Well, I suppose the place I played abroad have always been more to do with my record label rather than NuKillaBeatz, but I suppose they're tied together as well, because we've had guests from those nights that I've played at abroad playing in Limerick at NuKillaBeatz. So, but I've played in Iceland, played in Barcelona, played in Antwerp and Amsterdam, and not Antwerp, Arnhem and Amsterdam in Holland. Played in Poland a few times. They're the main ones I can think of. Yeah, played in London a few times.
So what about people coming from abroad to play in Limerick? Or
yeah, as I say, it's kind of a result of it's more a result of the record label that I run, because they run similar record labels, and we kind of say, okay, you're coming over to play in London, and then maybe I'll play in Limerick. So we've had like Chris in Perspective from In Perspective Records, Breakage and Equinox and Census, who are also involved with In Perspective, all played in Limerick a few times some of them. We've had ASC playing in Limerick recently, who's on the up. He's beginning to become a bigger name now.
He's the guy based in
San Diego, originally from England. We've had Martzman over, DJ Tracks, Paradox, be quite a big name. Alpha Omega, Reinforce Records. Yeah, a lot of Fierce, of course, who played in the first gig we did in the Globe.
Yeah, this one going out to Bypass, going out to Laudanum, all the Polish crew. This one, Nebula Prototype Chords, coming on Subtle Audio Digital. It's kind of a hash up of Chords of Sorrow, which came out already, and another tune that he didn't release.
What about these sort of bigger festivals, or whatever you want to call them, around the country, things like Oxygen and stuff like that? Have you ever played at any of those?
No, I haven't played at the big ones, but I've played at the kind of the smaller festivals like Mantua, I don't know how you say that. Played there maybe twice, and also another festival up in Leitrim. I think it was called the Leitrim Fest. But I played there once as well. A few free parties then as well outdoors and stuff like that in Clonakilty and places like that. That was a few years back. But,
so what about radio? Your original radio show was on, was it Word FM? Who was the first one?
Yeah, the first one I ever did on myself on radio was Word FM. I think the first one I did was the first year I was in college in 97 or maybe 98, the second year I was in college. It would have been a midday show from 2 to 3. I don't know who'd be listening to it, but that's the first one I did.
Probably playing it in the bank.
Could have been, yeah. But
on the buses.
Wherever, I don't care, as long as there's jungle playing, it's fine by me. But yeah, I think the year after though I got a better slot. I was on in the evenings, around 7 to 8. I don't know, was it Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever. And eventually then I was doing it in Mary I instead of UL. So I did a couple of years there in that, and then after that there was a series of kind of pirate stations in Limerick. The first one was Touch FM, where everybody ended up going back for a party after that gig in the Globe that night in December 99. The whole basement crew ended up back in the radio playing records and drinking a beer with no beer opener. So Kenny from Kenny and Kibo, who was part of the basement crew, ended up biting the lids off bottles and
his party piece.
Yeah. So that was Touch FM, but that lasted about 8 months, and myself and Kevin Began were playing sets on there every week, which was good. And then that kind of ended, and another station called Shine FM started up. I think you were playing at Shine.
I did. I played a couple of shows before somebody came in and robbed all the equipment.
Right.
I only did, I think, 2 or 3 shows.
Yeah.
But,
I don't remember doing that many shows on it either. Maybe, I don't think it lasted that long. I think it only lasted a few months.
And then there was Kiss FM after that.
Kiss FM after that, and it was actually Deep Cut, aka Manny, who was running a show on that. I think I played out there maybe once or something, but Manny was running that every week. And again, I think it only lasted 2 or 3 months, and a few months. But they were good outlets for music. I don't know how many people would have ended up, we would have been mentioning the nights on them and stuff like that. And of course that's how I actually met yourself first of all, was when you rang into Touch FM. And you ended up doing our flyers and posters and ended up DJing for us and the whole lot. So I mean, obviously there was somebody listening.
Well, I was going to ask you when you mentioned about the radio there, about feedback and, I mean, it seems that drum and bass, jungle, whatever, is a kind of a specialist type of sound that doesn't really appeal to a majority of people. It's always been kind of an underground thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten kind of frustrated with that, or are you happy enough that...
I think you can't be frustrated with it because I think you have to like it on its own by yourself, first of all. So you have to be happy enough listening to jungle on your own at home, and if anyone else likes it, that's a bonus, and that's always the way of looking at it. So if there's 10 people at a gig, I don't go, oh, where is everyone? I go, oh, there's 10 people there, so
which is better than none.
Exactly. And there's and I also look at it like I've seen gigs where there's 300 people, and they've been the worst gigs, and there's been no atmosphere, and the people that are there, all 300 of them, there's probably 5 that actually like the music. So, I mean, we've had gigs in Limerick with 30 people that I've been kind of scratching my head going, oh no, there's no one here, it's terrible, and for half the night thinking like that. But then by the end of the night, those 30 people you find are so into it that they don't care if there's 2 people there. They'll be up dancing, and they love what you're playing, and it's more real, it's more... I think it's better to have 30 people there who are all really, really into it, rather than 300 people there and they don't give a fuck what you're playing. So that's the way I look at it. And so I think it's easy to get frustrated and go, oh, why aren't more people into it? But like the type of music it is quite extreme, so you can't expect that everybody's going to like it. If everybody was going to like it, the music would have to change. And if the music changed, I don't think I'd like it so much. So.
I mean, it's 20 years now, more or less, since you first started listening to it. So, I mean, have you ever, at any stage, thought about giving up and saying, fuck this,
No, I think it's too much. I think it's too much a part of what I like, or like just. I don't get the buzz I get from listening to drum and bass from listening to any other type of music. It's as simple as that. Like I listen to lots of other types of music. I DJ other types of music. And I like music in general, but there's just something about drum and bass and jungle. There's just something about the energy, and there's something about the variety in it as well. You can get very mellow drum and bass, even though it's at the same tempo. It's still a fast pace, but it sounds mellow. Or then you can get the very hectic stuff. But there's a certain energy to drum and bass that you don't get off other forms of music, I think.
Yeah, this one in the background from Nebula, track on Mass Weight, going out to all the crew digging it. Next up, something new on the Alpha Cut label.
So what about how it's developed over the years? I mean, you've followed it all the way up along, so there's been lots of kind of variations.
Yeah,
you started this other club as well, Electronique.
Yeah.
And on your radio shows you've got Future Beatz, which is the jungle side of it, the rougher side.
Well, you're talking about Jungle Train for that one.
Sorry, Jungle Train. And then the other one is Future Beatz is the drum and bass and the Electronique kind of thing, the dubstep and all.
Yeah, dubstep and techno.
And the Jungle Train is pure.
Jungle Train is more. Jungle Train is what it says on the tin. It's more for the hardcore drum and bass jungle heads that that listen to it every day, and you don't need to coax them along, or you don't need to ease them into it. You can just get on there, and the first tune can be the craziest thing you ever wanted. Whereas on the radio on Spin FM, I think you have to be aware that you're playing for more of an audience that
they're not hardcore jungle or drum and bass people. They like to hear music in general, and I like to vary it a little bit. Play an hour of drum and bass, play some dubstep, and play some techno, and play some electronic.
So like your interest in electronic music is always been there. It's broadened out a little bit, but the main thing would be jungle. And drum and
Well,
bass.
even in the early days, I remember buying some techno records and some other stuff besides drum and bass, but it kind of came down to money, and of course what you like the most. So, like, money was never that much available that I could kind of buy all the drum and bass I wanted and all the techno I wanted and whatever else. So usually jungle would be prioritized. But I always bought some other records, but you only have to look at the shelves behind you to see what I spent most of my money on.
Is that that's not your entire collection?
Well, those 3 shelves and this, and there's more in that cupboard, and then there's a little bit more at home at my parents' house. But yeah, everything I own is pretty much in this room.
Because I remember, have you ever gotten rid of any records? Have you ever sort of?
I've sold 1 or 2, but
You like to hold on to everything?
I like to hold on to a lot. Unless I really don't like it, I'll hold on to it. But I am selling the odd 1 or 2 now because I've missed so many old school things over the years when I was younger and I didn't have any money. So what I have been doing is selling off the odd 1 or 2 that I don't really play and putting that towards buying some expensive old records.
What about sort of Irish people making drum and bass or jungle? I mean, there's
quite a few.
Yeah.
And there's actually some of the biggest names in drum and bass at the moment are from Ireland. So, like Caliber is definitely one of the biggest names in drum and bass. He's from Belfast. Zero Tolerance, who goes under the name of Zero T now, and Beta 2 are quite big. They've both released on Metalheads, amongst other labels. They're doing quite well. NAFTA, who wouldn't be as well known, but I think he's actually one of the best producers in Ireland, in any style of music. He's had quite a few releases.
What do you make of his latest album, the one about the...
Yeah, I really, really like it. I've actually been playing on the radio and I don't know what people are making of it, but I think it's an inspired album, quite honestly, yeah. I mean, it's very rare you get politics and dance music mixed together, and I don't know if I'd necessarily thought it was a good idea, but listening to that, it's an hour long, and I think it really makes for a good listen. Yeah.
So what about the spiritual or whatever side of the whole jungle and drum and bass scene? I know I've asked you or talked about this before, and it's not something that you feel particularly strongly about, is it, or is it something
The spiritual side of music.
Well, yeah, that way of looking at it, that there's a message.
Well, there is a spiritual side to it. I don't think I'd be so drawn to it if there wasn't. I don't think you can be so into a style of music unless there was something spiritual about it. Really, you'd have to. I think that's what I'm trying to say when I say I don't get the same energy off other music as I do off drum or bass. I think it's almost a spiritual thing, as you're saying. It's almost that you're connected to the music in a certain way. That you don't make you like other music, but you don't quite have that same connection to it. You know what I mean?
And you mentioned politics there. Do you think there's any role or any political message in drum and bass?
Well, I think dance music in general has always been about escaping rather than commenting on your everyday life. It's been escaping your everyday life is the objective of listening to dance music. So yeah, I don't see that I'll ever be. Well, I never say never, but really, I made music not to commentate political matters.
Would you say that NAFTA's new album was political?
Yeah, but I think it works. Like that's not.
You wouldn't necessarily see it from the political point of view, though. You'd see it as something that's in a creative sense.
No, I'd say I would see it from the political point of view because I know when I listen through the record, I go, oh, that's terrible. There'll be a certain sample of somebody talking about. Like, basically, I don't know if you've heard the album.
Yeah.
You have it, yeah. Okay. But yeah, there's samples taken from American soldiers saying certain things and saying that we didn't realise we were shooting people. It was just gooks or it was just packies or whoever it was, and just hearing people actually say that and knowing that they were thinking like that, it's kind of worrying. So, and it's because of a political situation that people were put into that situation. So I suppose you are affected by the politics of the record, and I'm not just listening to it as a piece of music. It's certainly you're affected by it, and you're thinking politically.
I mean, drum and bass or jungle has always been music. It has been music based as opposed to lyric.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been lyric samples, but they've been kind of just phrases or words or.
To create an atmosphere or mood rather than to give out some kind of life-changing message. Yeah.
I mean, there's the other side to it, the MC side of it, which I don't know whether you could say that they have. I suppose it could be kind of different here in Ireland than it would be, say, maybe London or other parts of the world, where in particular places the MC or the scene at a particular place may have a particular sort of, if you want, political, spiritual type of thing. But in general, the music, certainly drum and bass side of it, tends to be musical. Yeah. I mean, would you think that there's how would you see the future developing as such? Perhaps maybe lyrics or messages or singing or that side of it. I mean, it never seems to have. That never really seems to have happened, does it? It's always been just really about music as opposed to songs, we'll say. The traditional.
Well, I would have seen it like this: that in the early days, in the 1990s, up to like 1996 or 7, that there really wasn't a lyrical dimension to drum and bass. But I think from about 96, 97, when you had Ronnie Size Represent coming out, with Dynamite MC was on that album. He was rapping over Brown Paper Bag. And then you had a few other tunes on that album which were female vocalists on them. I can't remember her name, but again, that was kind of showing that it could be done. And there's been others. There's been Kosheen, who had that singer. I can't remember what's the name of that tune. High June, it's called. So,
yes.
That was it got into the charts. But and now even recently this year there was a Lynx and Chemo album, which I think was quite one of the best examples of vocal and rap related drum and bass. think it's very good. But it always seems to be like it's the exception rather than the rule that there's vocals in drum and bass, and I think it's going to continue like that. I don't think it's going to become a hip hop like kind of thing where every record has lyrics. I don't think drum and bass will ever be like that.
I've always felt that drum and bass and that's the kind of dance scene. The reason why there isn't so much lyrical content in it is that it's giving you more space. It's a kind of a spatial experience, isn't it? Where you're given the space to imagine sort of things, and I suppose in the atmosphere of the club and stuff like that, you don't really need lyrics in order to have this. It's unspoken really what's going on, as such.
I think as you're saying there, it's like the music allows your imagination to work with the sound suggests something, and every person party interpret it differently. But like, whereas nearly every other form of music, apart from dance music, probably is the one exception in general, but lots of other forms of music, they all have somebody telling you what's going on. There's no room to imagine your own version of events unless you don't really understand what they're saying. But in drum and bass and also techno and music like that, it's more it's open to interpretation what the music is about, and that's what I liked about it, because I never really liked lyrics. I never really sang along with lyrics.
You don't like people telling you what to do.
I don't. I want to do my own thing.
Yeah. So what about the live side of I mean, dance music tends to be made on computers, and it tends to be using keyboards and whatever, but it's usually pre-recorded. There has been some sort of live drum and bass, live drumming and things like that. And you've had, I remember some guy
Mac. Yeah,
is that Mac of the Mac and Don?
Mac and John.
That's on the.
Yeah, I've released a couple of releases by Mac and John on the Subtle Audio label, but had him playing in Limerick 3 times. Basically, what he does is he'll get a studio version of his music. He'll take out the drum channel that he's programmed on the computer, and when he plays live, he basically has his laptop, plays the rest of the sounds, and he plays along live on a drum kit and fills in the blanks, so to speak. And but he does it really, really well. It's proper live. Even a lot of live electronic music isn't really live. You go to see it and it's this guy with a laptop and he's just moving a mouse. Like everybody knows that live inverted commas setup. But Mac is actually genuinely live, because when he gets off the drum kit after that hour of his set, he's sweating buckets like yeah. So it's live, it's really live, and I think there needs to be more of that, but it's not that common in drum and bass, and I hope it becomes more common. There's another drummer called KJ, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, Swaka or something, but he's an amazing drummer, and he's another one. And the jungle drummer I've actually seen play, but he plays alongside a DJ, and I'm not sure how well that works with live drums over a record that already has a lot of drums in it.
But we were talking there recently about the kind of the organic versus the technical, where dance music tends to be very technical. It can even be sort of cold, soulless, even some people would say. Do you think there's any future or role or whatever for bringing in a kind of I would call it an organic element, something that's a bit more loose rather than, because it can tend to be quite whatever it is on the
almost like there's no human touch to it. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I think a lot of the like especially in recent years with the absence of hardware in studios, everybody now is gravitating towards using a computer and software, and that's it. But a lot of the best music you'll hear is like people maybe using a computer but using it with a sampler and a keyboard, and a lot of producers I know still use equipment like that, and it does give, as you say, a kind of an organic edge to it. And I think hopefully more people are going to realise that it's not all about being precise to within a millimetre or whatever.
It's maybe pushing it off slightly.
Yeah, it might actually be a better idea sometimes not to be so precise.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big part of the drum bass that I don't like these days, and there's a lot of it I don't like because it's too engineered, it's too loud, everything is maximised. I don't know, like the old school drum and bass, there's this loudness war, I don't know if you've heard about this, going on in music in general, where everything has to be so well produced and everything has to be pushed. Like if you look at the waveform of a piece of music now in the charts, you'll just see a big block. There'll be no spikes or waves, or everything will just be fitted in, and basically every available volume range is used up, every available frequency range is used up. It's kind of a reflection on society that we want everything all the time and want it now, kind of thing. Whereas I think people need to take a step back and just allow there to be a bit more room.
You need some gaps as well.
Yeah, you need some gaps, and you don't need, everything doesn't need to be so loud. It's going to go through a sound system that's going to make it loud anyway. So. A lot of drum and bass I don't like these days is that hyper-produced, like everything maximised kind of drum and bass. And I try to suss out the guys that are making things a little bit closer to the old school, where it wasn't so...
just to go back a bit, when did you start your own record label with Subtle Audio recording?
That was 2000. Well, I've been working on it for a few years before the first release, but the first release was 2005. But I've been working on it for about a year and a half before that, trying to get a distribution.
And why did you decide to set that up or get that going?
It was kind of through the night. I was meeting, as I say, Chris in Perspective, Equinox, Census, Breakage. It was kind of through the night, and also through a website called Server Central, which is a place where a lot of the people that would have listened to the old school sound more ended up being on. And started talking about changing the music and getting it back to the old style a little bit more. So I began to get a few CDs off these people who were playing on our night, and I was hearing what they were doing, and I was kind of going, this is brilliant, but nobody's releasing this music. So it began, as I was, and there was less and less records I was finding in the shops that I actually liked. So I was kind of going to myself, right, well this music is out there, but nobody's putting it out, so like why don't I do it myself? Yeah. And it seems to be the next step anyway, because I was already DJing and maybe a label was the next step, I don't know, whatever, but I think the main reason was I was a bit frustrated that there wasn't music I wanted to buy in the shops, and then there was all this music I was getting on CD, and I'm kind of going, oh, that's okay.
And like I've noticed that, I mean, you've got stuff on your label now from all over the world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just kind of off the point a bit, do you think that with the advent of the drum and bass scene, or the dance scene, coupled with the internet and lots of other things, that this kind of networking around the world has come? I mean, do you feel conscious of the fact that you were in contact with people in Russia and the States and God only knows where?
Yeah,
it's as if they're next door. So like you're listening to music online, when you're doing your show online, anyone in the world can be anywhere listening to it. How do you feel about that sort of aspect of it? I mean, is that something that you think does that have any bearing at all on what you're doing?
I don't think it changes what music. Well, it changes what music you're getting, obviously, because the music you're getting is coming from different parts of the world, which will have different influences. And like I noticed, the drum and bass from Russia, for example, just has its own little thing going on. It's slightly different to everybody else. it's really good. Then other countries, maybe you mightn't be able to necessarily distinguish, oh, this was made in America or this was made in England. Well, I suppose the UK always has its own sound, maybe, but yeah, you're getting music from different countries, and I suppose you are aware of that, and kind of, I am aware that boundaries have been broken down a lot in the last 5 years, especially, or 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, right now, ASC not released. Not sure if this is coming out, but there you go. Right before this, something from the Darkest Stroke camp. That was from Sabre. One Man Genocide out now on vinyl. Amazing tune. Next up, something from Polska's forthcoming album on Subtle Audio. Watch for that coming in. Am I not?
Do you think there's a role for sort of cultural, or what we would say called traditional cultural music? We'd say, like in Ireland you've got traditional music, Celtic music, but in other parts of the world, we'd say Turkey or anywhere, the Asian countries, Afghanistan, South America, places where they would have their own traditional sound. Do you think that there's a sort of a need for people to use or to create drum and bass or jungle or dance music or whatever that is reflective of their own particular culture, rather than trying to do the same thing that's been done in the States or Europe or whatever?
I think that's an interesting kind of that'd be an interesting angle to come at it from. I can think of certain countries that have adopted their own, like Brazilian drum and bass, for example. Okay, it might be a little bit cliche, the kind of influence they used, but it is Brazilian, or it is Latin at least. But I think, you see, electronic music is different in that way, in that it's it's always, everything's been possible. You never had to just use one sound, or you never just had to use one instrument that you bought. You know, the possibilities with synthesizers, computers and samplers means that you can use any sound. So you find people from England making Latin influenced drum and bass, or you'd find, you know, people from America making drum and bass that's been very heavily influenced from the old hardcore, old school drum and bass that came out of the UK. So, but what you're saying there is actually very interesting, and it would actually be interesting to hear different nationalities kind of looking back to their own culture and kind of using that influence in their music. It does happen from time to time, but not enough.
Well, I've noticed that, sort of, whenever I hear, I know Peter Curtin now played a tune one night, a hip-hop tune that had, it sounded like Arabic or whatever in it, It was just very refreshing to hear something like that.
Or even the Rubber Bandits from Limerick. They're
exactly,
very Limerick.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, the Rubber Bandits are pure local, pure local stuff like that. Possibly anyone outside of Limerick wouldn't be able to relate to. But I mean, it seems to me that there's a danger that with the sort of the way the internet is so accessible to anywhere and anything in the world, there's a tendency towards things becoming a bit bland. Where everybody's doing the same stuff. So you could be in Alaska or you could be in Australia and you could be listening to the same music, and you walk out the door and you forget where you are as such. So. I think it's important that no matter where you are in the world, if you're creating music, that it's reflective of your own culture and where you are. Because otherwise, we all end up, you lose that variety.
Well, what I do notice, like even for example, Polska, who is an Irish drum and bass artist, but I'm about to put out an album by him in Subtle Audio, and what I do notice about his sound, it's not tin whistles and it's not diddly obvious Irish music influence, but there's a very Celtic kind of feel to it, without being all fiddles and all that. But it's more the atmosphere of it. It's very innocent and very like when I hear it, I kind of get images of Ireland back thousands of years ago. With the fields and kind of the very green, or the mount or the cliffs of Moher kind of thing, or like Celtic, what you call them, the rocks out in the burn, those flag dolmens. Yeah, it's very much that kind of vibe I get off it. So
imagine a fella inside with a synthesizer or sitting under the dolmen and keeping out of the rain.
But at least that I don't know if he's influenced by anything Irish, but he is Irish, and to me it does sound like...
Well, he's Irish, but he's using the name Polska, which is...
but that's it.
Polska is... remember Polska from the stamps is Polish, isn't it? He's not Polish, is he?
He's not, and it's funny because he just liked the name and he didn't realise it meant Poland. And it's funny because when I play a jungle train, there's a few people from Poland there, and they're asking, "Oh, who's this tune by?" And I say Polska, and he's like, "What?"
Oh, right. Anyway, just finishing up. 10 years, NuKillaBeatz is going. Subtle Audio is doing well. You've got a couple of radio shows. It doesn't look like you're going to give up on drum and bass or jungle in the near future. You've got electronic going as well, which is looking at the kind of the more. I know you've been playing a fair bit of techno, dubstep. Some other types of electronic.
Yeah, that's co-run with Kevin Began, by the way.
Yeah,
Began,
and John Cooper.
John Cooper's involved as well. Yeah.
So you've got 2 clubs in Limerick.
Well, one's about to finish up. Like that's why.
Are you finishing NuKillaBeatz?
NuKillaBeatz is 10 years is enough, and I feel that there's a new guy in town. There's a new sheriff. There's a new guy called Adrian Flynn, and he's been putting on some gigs in the last while. And I just feel we've done as much as we can in the 10 years, and now there's somebody else. Like, I don't think I would have been running nights in Limerick for 10 years if there was anybody else around who was going to do it. But the truth is, there wouldn't have been drum and bass in Limerick really for the last 10 years if we hadn't been doing the nights. So, but now that there is somebody else, I feel like 10 years is a good landmark. There's somebody else there now to do the nights, so why do we need to do it? And I want to focus on production and making my own music. So.
Okay, so the 6th of March this year, 2010, in the Underground.
Baker Place, yeah. And everybody from the crew is playing, and actually Andy, aka Limer, is coming back from London to be there, and Cullum, aka Kane, is coming all the way back from Barcelona. So,
and we'll be giving out free copies of this movie DVD.
Yeah. Fair play to yourself. And we're hoping as well that each DJ is going to put together some kind of mix and give it away on the night as well. So yeah. So yeah, apparently there's people coming from Galway and Dublin. And, you know, a lot of people would have travelled from other counties and cities during the 10 years to be at our gigs, so a few are coming back for one last hurrah.
So any shouts out before you want to finish up?
Just want to say thanks to all the lads who DJ'd at the night over the years, all the lads in Limerick. You know, a lot of the time we came to the end of the night and there was no money or whatever, but you know, I think everybody was really just doing it because they liked it, not because they wanted to be famous or... You weren't going to be famous playing at NuKillaBeatz anyway, but no, I think everybody involved was always in it for the right reasons, and that was great. Like, you know, even yourself doing flyers and whatever for nothing, and you know, just it was good to be involved with people who were doing it for the right reasons. Yeah, so I just want to give a shout out to anyone who helped us with the night over the years, and everyone who came to the night over the years as well. Obviously, you've had a lot of support from people in Limerick and from people outside of Limerick, and even from people abroad who travelled all the way from England even to be at night to ours, so it's kind of humbling in a way, you know. But yeah, no, it's been a good 10 years, and here's to the future, whatever that holds.
Future Beatz.
Future Beatz, yeah.
All day now, it's nuts.
Yeah. We wait for Tony? No.
Nah, I was thinking that every time I go.
Will he wait for us?
Yeah, probably not.
You recording that?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Lenny with the big fucking night out heading in.